They can be magnetic, captivating, the kind of person who lights up a room just by walking into it. They know exactly what to say, how to look at you, and how to make you feel like the most important person in the world. But somewhere down the road, days, weeks, or even years later, you begin to feel like you're losing yourself. You're questioning your worth, your memories, even your sanity. What happened? How did something so dazzling become so destructive? In today's episode of Behind Your Mind, we unravel one of the most haunting and manipulative psychological journeys, the pattern of narcissistic abuse, from charm to harm. We'll take a deep dive into the stages, the psychology behind each step, real-life stories, and most importantly, how you can recognize and resist it. Let's begin at the beginning, because that's where the trap is laid, not with cruelty, but with affection, attention, validation. In the idealization phase, a narcissist doesn't walk up to you and say, "Hi, I'm here to control and devalue you." Instead, they say things like, "I've never met anyone like you." They mirror your values, your interests, even your dreams. It feels serendipitous, like fate. That's not an accident. Psychologically, narcissists have an acute radar for people who are empathic, nurturing, or vulnerable to emotional validation. They seek those who are deeply human because those qualities are easier to exploit. This stage is intoxicating. You feel seen, heard, chosen. You might even wonder, is this what love is supposed to feel like? Take Sarah, for example, a bright, creative graphic designer in her early 30s. When she met her boyfriend, Daniel, he was endlessly interested in her passions, praised her artwork, and even told his friends she was his muse. 6 months in, they were planning to move in together. "I felt like I'd won the emotional lottery," she recalled. But little did she know, the pedestal she was placed on would soon become a ledge. And then something shifts, not all at once, but subtly. It could start with a sarcastic remark, a backhanded compliment, or silent treatment that feels disproportionate. Suddenly, the same qualities that were once praised, your independence, your sensitivity, your success, become points of criticism. You find yourself working harder to please them. You start to question your own feelings. You second-guess your choices. This is the devaluation stage. Narcissists, driven by fragile egos, begin to perceive their partner's individuality as a threat. Your autonomy reminds them of their lack of control, and so begins the process of pulling you down so they can feel higher. Remember Sarah? A year into the relationship, Daniel started making jokes about her work. "You're still doing those little drawings?" he'd say. When she confronted him, he accused her of being too sensitive and imagining things. She began apologizing more, compromising more, shrinking more. She thought, if I could just be better, maybe things will go back to how they were. That's part of the trap. The comparison to the initial charm phase keeps victims hooked. They think they can earn back the love. But the rules have changed. Here's where things get dark. Once the narcissist feels you're emotionally tethered, the manipulation escalates. This can take many forms: gaslighting, guilt-tripping, financial control, and even isolating you from friends or family. Gaslighting, especially, is a powerful tactic. It's not just lying. It's questioning your reality. You remember a conversation one way, they insist it never happened. You express a boundary, they label you dramatic. Over time, this distorts your self-trust. Let's look at Jason, a former high school teacher who fell into a narcissistic relationship with his partner, Evan. At first, Evan was charming, generous, and attentive. But slowly, Evan began twisting Jason's words, accusing him of flirting with others, even rewriting events. Jason started journaling, trying to prove to himself that his memories were real. That's how deep the manipulation ran. Isolation is often the next move. Narcissists feel threatened by outside influence. They may discourage you from seeing friends, mock your family, or say, "They don't really care about you like I do." When you're cut off from your support network, it becomes harder to escape or even see the abuse for what it is. When the narcissist no longer finds you useful, emotionally, physically, or socially, they may discard you. This can be sudden and cruel, or slow and cold. Either way, it's devastating. But here's the cruel irony. After discarding you, some narcissists may circle back through what's called hoovering. They may reappear with apologies, promises of change, or dramatic displays of affection. Not because they've changed, but because they want to reestablish control. For Sarah, the discard came after she landed a new job. Daniel accused her of abandoning him for her career. He disappeared for a week, then returned with flowers and a tearful apology. It worked for a while, until she caught him messaging other women. That's when she finally walked away. Why does this pattern work so effectively? Because it's rooted in psychological principles like intermittent reinforcement, where unpredictable rewards make us more likely to stay. Combine that with trauma bonding, and the attachment becomes emotionally addictive. Narcissists, particularly those with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, struggle with empathy, accountability, and a stable sense of self. Their charm is often a mask, a survival strategy crafted to gain admiration and control. But it's important to note, not all people with narcissistic traits are abusive. And not all narcissistic abuse comes from those with diagnosable NPD. The behavior matters more than the label. So, how do you heal from this? Recognize the pattern. Learn about narcissistic behavior. Naming it helps de-shame it. Rebuild your self-trust. Journaling, therapy, and mindfulness can reconnect you to your intuition. Set boundaries. Whether or not you cut contact, boundaries are vital. Seek support. Community is healing. Support groups, friends, therapists, lean on them. Jason eventually left Evan after joining a support group for survivors. Hearing others' stories made me realize I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. That realization marked the beginning of his freedom. The journey from charm to harm is subtle, layered, and deeply human. It's not your fault if you were drawn to someone who seemed magical, only to discover pain beneath the surface. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And now you're armed with awareness. Awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Remember, real love doesn't confuse you. It doesn't diminish you. It doesn't make you doubt your worth. You deserve clarity. You deserve truth. You deserve peace. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Behind Your Mind. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And as always, take care of your mind, your heart, and your boundaries. And hey, if this episode helped you understand yourself or someone else just a little better, please consider subscribing, liking, or just sharing this with someone who might need it. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and remember, I'm right here with you, behind your mind.